What's up, everybody?
Hey,
There they- Oh man, this is gonna be
we
a
got
good one because that happened pretty quick.
Yeah.
there we go. Let's
Your, your camera's flipped around there, Mikey.
see. Is it?
Or, or you're wandering around.
Where is it? Oh, yeah, it's flipped around.
There you are.
Yeah, let me get this thing unfucked. How do I do that?
Did you?
Unfucked it.
I can see you now.
Yeah,
Or
I'll
are
just
you?
fuck it. I'll just turn it around. Make it easier because
uh,
I'm not.
how you feeling? You sound horrible.
Yeah, dude, you sound beat up. Uh-oh. Spun it around too fast for the Wi-Fi to catch up.
Dude, got a bunch of people coming in. Tack Tribe. So what's up to all the guys at the Owl Shop? I guess they put it up on their screen, and guys listen to us rant. Dude, Mike's. I think he's like timing out. Wait for him. Give him a minute.
Yeah.
How
How you
you
been,
been?
dude?
I'm good. Uh, been working a lot, so.
Yeah,
I guess
same.
that's good. Good thing and a
Uh,
bad thing.
There he is.
shit. Yeah, I'm just gonna. I was trying to put it up on a stand, but I got nothing. So
It's been a while, man. So it's just like
no shit. It's been quite a
getting
while.
back into it.
Play free
All right.
bird.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no shit.
dude. Let's jump right into it. So I think
Yeah.
for everybody listening, we've Mike brought this up, started talking about. I think you and Chris
Yep.
had a discussion about it, you know,
There we go.
and I think it's worthy of like having a live discussion, everyone to hear about, obviously I'm a huge proponent for like practical style shooting, practical training, tops
Hmm.
shooting, shooting competitions, right, as a tool for development, and
Yeah.
pushing themselves, on the performance side, and then how they apply that back into their work, in terms of application, whatever that looks like for the individual is important. But I think um, you brought up a bunch of good points, Mike. I'll let you jump
Okay.
in and see what you've seen, kind
Hmm.
of talk through because there are some problems.
Agreed.
Competitive shooting is the game, right? And
Hmm.
it's a great game. I think it's been a huge value for me in my own training,
Yeah.
but it still is a game, and the
Yeah.
application, is a different game that the stakes are a little bit higher. So I'll let you go with like kind of
Yeah.
lay it out. What are we talking about tonight?
All right. I'll give a quick one over and then like where it came from and then some concepts I have that we bounce back and forth between you and all both of you guys and me. The big thing that's kind of caught me is uh, and it was brought up by my buddy Pat Doherty. He was at the range and some guy shot a stage. And they set up a USPSA style stage, and the guy was like, "Oh yeah, you clipped a no shoot, but you still had a really good hit factor." I was like, that just kind of that hits me wrong because a no shoot's a failure. That's a mission failure. Like, um, and so I started thinking about the whole idea of practical shooting, training using performance-based shooting and hit factor, and training for USPSA are two different things. Or training law enforcement using performance-based shooting techniques and hit factor is different from training people to shoot USPSA. Um, and so I started thinking about like what the concept is great. I mean, we're all on board with it. Now, how do we
Yeah.
make that better suited for law enforcement? And some of the stuff that I looked at, like for me, if you're setting up, let me back up. If you're just doing training, you shoot whatever. Honestly, you shoot whatever you want. You push it. You're going to shoot no shoots. You're going to have mics off target. You're going to have all kinds of stuff. You're going to push that. That's one thing. But when you set up basically like a culmination exercise, I set up a stage and you're shooting no shoots or off target misses, to me, you're out of control of your gun. Like you're not, if you miss a target completely, you have no idea where that gun was pointed when you pulled the trigger, but you pulled it anyway. And so that's something that I don't think should be rewarded by looking away from it and just saying, well, you had a good hit factor. So, yeah, I think that it's the two things that I have concerns with, like I said, are no shoots and off target misses. And I think that comes from, the way back to the old place for Matt and I, like if you're missing targets, you're in a world of trouble. Like you can't just throw a bullet and it doesn't hit where it's supposed to hit. So that to me is very close to an actual no shoot because an off target miss can very well create a no shoot. And so my biggest concern is that we're not um, giving the due accountability for the training when we only look at the hit factor. Because there's stuff that you do in a USPSA match that you won't do for real. You don't if you're in an incident and you hit some 12-year-old girl in the leg, what's your hit factor?
Zero.
Zero. Exactly. So now I don't know how we refine that, but I think it's something that's worth discussing. Um, Changing the way we weight certain things, the value we give to certain things, or the penalties we give to certain things, in order to better facilitate training for law enforcement. So I'll let you guys go from there. I'll jump in here too.
Yeah. Can I hit something?
Yeah.
Um, I remember I think you did a live on it ago, and I want to clarify something because like one of the guys, Tardio, said you're not getting a good hit factor in any real competitive match if you shoot a no shoot. I disagree. Guys have won nationals with no shoot hits,
Exactly.
and
Dude,
beat guys who have no penalties
there's
because they're
some very,
faster.
very good shooters that can outrun misses,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And to
Yeah.
be shoot 95% of the match against the field and have the most mics of the top 20 guys,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Because the math works out,
Yep.
you can miss it like when it's okay to miss. Um, and it's a hard thing to I think this is a hard one to bring up because at what point are you stymieing training and development, right? Because we go back to that slow down and get your hits mentality, right? This is no fail. Um, so one question I would pose is like, how do you is it as easy as saying like, hey, hit on Brown's as good as an alpha, which I've said plenty of times in class to push guys, right? And then kind of ratchet them up and bring them back. Like, do you have to like verbally say now is the conditions are set where it's okay to fail for the sake of development and exploration? Or are you relying heavily on the individual that's training to have some sort of training discipline in his methodology to understand what he's doing for the sake of development?
I
Yep.
think that good, Miller.
I think that you're going to have to, as an instructor, as the person running the training, you're going to have to manage that because on the training side, if we're training, to me, that's exploratory pace. That's where we're pushing as hard as we can. You hit no shoots, you have misses off target. I don't care. I honestly don't care because we're trying to build speed and accuracy together. Now the validation is we set up a stage where you've got to move and shoot and set up and you've got low percentage shots and all the rest. Now we see how you can apply it. In application, you don't get to shoot no shoots. You can't be as sloppy. It is incumbent upon you to assume more risk by being more careful instead of making someone else assume your risk with marksmanship. And so I think that you can do both. You can still train the way we train, but when you do what I consider like a culmination exercise, which a stage should be, that shouldn't be training. That should be a way to validate training. When you do that, you should say, hey, listen, you're shooting to operational standards, which means you can't have any no shoots. And then you talk about misses off target, but I think those should be penalized in some way because it's an egregious failure. But you can do both. I think you can do both.
Yeah. I think the hardest part, I think Matt, you brought it up, was it's incumbent on the student and the instructor to understand, more so the instructor to make it very clear so they're not misunderstood, right? Very, very clear is what are we trying to accomplish right now in this moment with the way we're shooting and what we're doing with what
Mhm.
end result in mind. Like that's up to the instructor. And I think maybe and none of us are going back on saying competition shooting or practical shooting, which I hate putting those two together, that practical shooting training methods are not the right way to start training guys. It's are we doing a good enough job as instructors ourselves, the three of us, and are people who are using that method understanding it deep enough, and some I'm sure understand it far better than I do, but how to actually apply that to the student? Because if all they experience is go fast, good enough, Are they recognizing that the whole point of that was to show them that they were out of control? And that's not what they want the world to look like in reality, right? I've tried to harp on that in some of the stuff I've been doing, but it's like, I need you to see what out of control looks like and feels like, and
Hmm.
see that the results weren't what you wanted on the target. And I'm not saying slow down, I'm saying try to find the control in those little pieces of time instead of just sending to it like a 20 split. Maybe it's a 25, maybe it's a 40, depending on the distance and what you're actually trying to hit. But that whole idea of vision and what does it look like and feel like out of control can get them back into control. And then the hardest part is when we say, all right, if you hit a no shoot, it's a DQ for the stage, you don't get a time. If you miss, it's a, you know, it's this. Then it literally translates to slow down. I think is what I see more
Hmm.
often. I
Hmm.
don't I just see that happening and like trying to encourage that along. That's the training journey, right? Like it's not going to happen in 2 days
Yeah, I
Yeah.
or
think
40 hours.
it's interesting to think, um it's hard to do in a course, and we're talking about are you setting those conditions in the courses? And I think all I'm trying to do in a course is expose guys to enough information that when they go forward, they have ideas and concepts and methods that they can apply on their own, right? Because
Hmm.
it's yeah, yes, you can set very strict conditions, in your course that you're doing with a culmination exercise or something like that. But if the guy is not following, he's going to take away, everyone's going to take away something different. You know,
Yeah.
we, I see it simply like if I took, you know, doing a CQB run and I took all the photographic targets and I put a 3x5 card on the target where I wanted to hit, right? The rounds need to go into this 3x5 index card. Then that would make the technique of whatever they're doing look a certain way.
Yep.
Now, if I don't put those 3x5s on there, but I brief them, your hits all need to fall within this, and then after they're done, I go over and put an overlay over it. I change the conditions, and the technique's going to look a little bit different. But then, just like any standard, in training, like it's only as good as your ability to enforce it. And at
Yeah.
some
And
point, I
Yeah.
think you have to have that individual has to have training discipline and the desire to want to perform, as well as having the desire to explore and push and develop. But like, how does it fit it? Like, when does it come in?
Yeah, I think something you said, Chris, about when we have, basically I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember exactly, but if you have too much accountability in the sense that you too much penalization of errors, that people are going to go slow. And I kind of differ on that because I believe that if you present the material, and it's incumbent upon the people teaching, if you present the material properly, there are two different events. There is the training piece, and that's an exploratory piece. That's where you actually encourage people to go, like you said, to the fringe of control. Go a little out of control and go, oh, that was too much. Back it down. Figure out what control looks and feels like. And then the validation of it is that's like your full mission profile in the military. The validation is you shoot a stage. And what they should understand, from my perspective, they should understand that this isn't a replication of what we want the operational application of your marksmanship skills to look like, which means you can't shoot no shoots and you can't miss targets. And so we want to see in application, we want to see the marksmanship we worked on in application, what it looks like and how fast it really is. And I believe you can separate those two, but the instructor has to be able to articulate that.
yes, that's, and the student has to be honest with, hey, do you understand what we're trying to do? And like 99% go, yep.
Yeah,
And
and they have no idea.
they have no idea. I think that's one of the things like I'm trying to explore with myself is, and one of the guys put it up here, and I know Max and I were talking about it at the range the other day, was like 90% of your speed, 90%, 95% alphas. Like that's match speed, right? That's reality speed. That's your performance. And then Matt, you talk a lot about rate of perceived effort, right? So I need to be working this hard, and the goal is that that speed just increases with the accuracy over time and training and exploration, right? We're not, because the whole idea of, hey, give me only 90% on this gun is like when telling somebody to grip 80% with their left hand. Nobody has a fucking clue what their 90% is, right? Like they don't have a
Yeah.
clue what 90% is. So it's like, I don't need you to be going at 100% effort. I need you to explore up here. And then eventually your ability to go through here and shoot this clean will become faster once you start to trust your vision, once you start to trust your movement and the ability to present the gun. It'll all come to you quicker. I think that ends up being the goal, right? But what I see is like pure slowdown, movements, draws, everything. It's like putting someone at the 25 and then they draw to the target like that helped
Mhm.
somehow. It's a weird thing, and I think it's in the student's head.
Yeah, and I think, as you know, when I'm teaching, I'm trying to kind of instill the performance, and I would always articulate it. I want accountability, control, and performance all in equal parts at the maximum level. But if in that little, you know, triad, if any one of those is out of whack, then you're gonna have some sort of failure, right?
Yeah,
If I'm accountability and control are at the maximum I can do, then typically what I'll see is performance drops, right? And then maybe in application, the situation that you're in requires a little bit more performance, right? And it's the same thing that you learn from like matches, right? If I'm a hit factor stage above 12, right? Like I'm going 50% alphas, 50% Charlies as fast as I can, right? Because that is what that situation requires to be successful,
Yeah.
right? If I have five different positions and 40 yards of running on a 32 round stage and that hit factor is under five, I need to shoot all the points,
yeah.
right? And it's the same thing that that you learn from a competitive environment, but are you disciplined enough to now go put that in application, right?
I
That
think
would be like the
that's the hard
extreme.
part. Yep.
But are you also disciplined enough to change conditions in your training where,
God damn.
Mike, are you dying?
Fuck yeah.
We're all dying. But are you disciplined enough in your training to change, conditions and then hold to that, right? Like, hey, I'm exploring now. Now I need to see what I can do. And I think from the practical approach to training, like anytime you go to the range, and I was guilty of this for years, right? I would shoot simple exercises at the beginning that built into a complex one. And I wholeheartedly believe kind of halfway through my shooting journey, it's like, I'm going to shoot the hardest one first because you get one or two looks.
Yeah. Where am
One
I at
one or
right
two,
now?
one or two looks if what you're doing in dry is paying up, like,
Yeah.
is it all clicking?
Yeah.
And then once I see that, and I just have that understanding, I can collect those metrics or that data. And I'm not talking about like I'm not writing in a book, but okay, I saw what that felt like. I see what I did. Now I can isolate pieces of that, if it's a big complex stage, or I can take it to single targets, multiple targets, and do kind of standard exercises that feed into that, and then movement and tighten all that stuff up. But it takes a lot of discipline on the range to implement that style of training, I think.
Yeah. I think we started talking about it because I was listening to that
I
last
want to.
podcast. It
I wonder if
heals
I wonder if
everything.
I wonder if Guinness is on here. I would love to be the first shooter guy that's sponsored by a beer company. Just saying.
It's a dope hat. A big old freaking harp on the front.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd be like, shooting and our product don't really go together. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, exactly.
What were you gonna say, Chris?
Oh, I was listening to that last podcast, Scott Howell had on Iron Sights, and I already spaced the guy's name. From the Combative Summit, and he was talking about like it's the hierarchy of points and his issues with teaching guys like cops just straight BJJ, right? As opposed to a grappling perspective. When if they view the world as points, they're apt to give up a more dominant position in the street or something they've already accomplished in order even subconsciously to score points. And I was kind of like, man, that made sense because Mike was talking about it with practical shooting. He's talking about it with the competitive or competitive shooting. He's talking about competitive combatives. That if we over focus on that and don't truly understand what we're trying to accomplish by training both of those, we tend to apply it wrong in reality. And even some people's reality, and unfortunately, Cliff Barley, yes, that's who it is. I think Johnny's on here. Um, it made a lot of sense. I'm like, if we can't make it clear to them that like we're using this to explore what you're going to have to apply in a moment's notice, and this is probably what it's going to look like, feel like. If it's successful, it'll look and feel like this. You're going to be more apt to be successful if you're accomplishing these things. If it's this consistent and this repetitive, right? If your grip is this durable, if you're actually paying attention to what you want to hit, that helps play out in the game as well as reality. But the idea, I think the big thing we're talking about is trying to figure out a better way to not really score it, but we have to score it to find a way to help guys find out if they're improving or let them compete against each other. And I was almost thinking like go to major scoring or like make Charlie's a lot more acceptable when those training wheels are on. Like go to major scoring, make those Charlies. Like I'll take Charlies in a gunfight all day long. That's not what we want. We tell them that in class, right? It's not what we want. We want them all in the same hole, right? That would be optimal because we know in reality those are going to be moved around. We're moving, they're moving. But the ability to hit exactly what I want is what's important. And missing it by 8 inches is a miss, especially when it comes to no shoots. And it's if you can't control it at that pace on an open target, what makes you think you're going to be able to control it at that pace, or when you see that flash of red and start to recognize those targets? Like, what does it look like at speed to do it too?
Yeah. I think
I see it
it's,
as
go ahead, Mike.
I just see it just the overview of the topic. I see it as accountability. I see the whole
Mhm.
thing. The scoring is the administrative part of it. But I see this as as being using hit factor as a metric and performance based shooting methodologies as a as the vehicle to it. But the by weighing certain things more heavily, like no shoots and all that, it's accountability because you're giving people an acceptance of making pretty egregious errors marksmanship wise. And that was my whole thing. It's like I saw there was a match in California. It was like an LE. I don't know if it was in a complete match or it was just like an LE squad or something like that. I thought it was a complete LE match. And the idea that you go through that, it doesn't matter that you're a LE guy. I mean, honestly, it makes no difference. If you're shooting USPSA, you could be anything. I mean, it really saying it's an LE match really doesn't mean anything, honestly. It's just USPSA. But that said, if you wanted to make it unique and different and specific to law enforcement, make it more accountable. And that's to me, that's the whole thing. When you get fixated, with hit factor, you're not fixated with the process, and that's why I can't stand when I shoot a match. And I got people in my squad, and the minute they come off the freaking line, like, what's my hit factor? What's my hit factor? What's your hit factor? What's my hit factor? What's the stage? What? I'm like, fucking stop it. Just shoot. Shoot the best you can. At the end, all the scores are going to be there. But you're result driven, not process
Yeah.
driven. And
Like
so
it
it's
makes a
like
difference. Oh, I got to do
that's
better next time on the next
ooh,
stage. No, you
wow.
just got to do your best.
Do whatever exactly. It's like do the best you can. Shoot as fast and accurate as you can, and then the scoring is going to tell you something about that. But to me, the idea that in law enforcement they're using performance based shooting and hit factor as a scoring metric is outstanding. My big thing is the accountability is not there because there's a lot of guys out there that are younger guys and not shorten them. We're all young, semi foolish or in my case very foolish guys, but they don't understand. They're just taking from their weekend USPSA match in freaking Prado or wherever or Cleveland, and they're putting it into their department's training. We'll just do USPSA stuff, and they hear what we say in sound bites on this vehicle, Instagram, but they don't hear the way we talk to each other about accountability, how important accountability is in your shooting. That doesn't mean you don't train hard. Doesn't mean that that you don't train and throw misses and throw no shoots in your training and all that. But the end result is the most accurate, most rapid, accountable shooting. And that's the whole thing that I think that's why I brought this up a couple of days ago and I've been talking to you guys about it because I think the accountability piece is what we've all complained about with qualifications in general. Is that it's like it's so slow that it's so slow because they don't want to have the accountability. They want to make sure everybody passes. But when we do start to get this more modern performance-based shooting and hit factor and all that, which is outstanding, the application of it, I believe, is just a little skewed. Just needs a little tweaking. I'm not against it. I just think it needs a little more accountability based on the operational requirements.
Yeah, I think the accountability, comes back to awareness. You know, we all teach classes different ways. And I'm sure it's, it changes year to year as you continue to develop. At least it does for me. The class I taught last year is not the type of classes or progression I'm teaching this year, and hopefully it's not going to be the same next year. But I think like accountability is directly correlated to like your awareness of what's happening while it's happening and not after the fact. Where if you're outcome focused, right? And there was something in there about if I want to make USPSA more accountable, I should be calling my shots.
That should be happening
Yes,
already.
but you
Yeah.
should be calling them before you press the trigger. In the application world, you should be programming yourself. And if you're training guys that carry guns for a living that are professional gunmen, you should be programming them to shoot their vision. Now, the
Hmm.
only discussion is what's the best way to do that?
Yeah.
And that's where I like the predictive training progression that leads right into reactive training progression, right? So it's kind of like the method I use is, hey, take everybody to the deep end of the pool and you're all pushing y'all in. 45 minutes later, we're going to talk about how to swim. But you have to have some level of exploration, right? Because it's inductive learning process. You have to shoot a certain amount of rounds of the predictive progression, and then it starts clicking. But then you have to get the right cues at the right time. And that's what I think. There's so many guys that are out there teaching doubles in every one of their fucking class. And it's like, I love it, you know talk with Ben plenty about it. Every fucking incorrect doubles explanation is good for business, right? Keep explaining it incorrectly, right?
Yeah.
Because eventually guys are gonna, find their way to my course or Ben's course or one of your, and it's like, well, I've never heard that. Yeah, because it's like you're taking one little piece of it. Like doubles is the predictive progression is such a useful tool because I used it myself for hundreds of thousands of rounds to go figure out mistakes. And the only thing you can ever do as an instructor outside of, regurgitating someone else's shit is you have to go figure it out yourself. And you can't correct a mistake in someone, right? You can't identify a mistake in someone if you haven't made that
Yep.
mistake
Hmm.
50, 60, 70 times. I was just talking to Ben the other day. We were kind of like cumulative round shot, you know, over your history of shooting, right? And he brought up that I think he said he has shot 600,000 rounds through his Glocks. Where I'd be like, okay, and I'm sure he has all the fucking receipts for ammo, like, and
Yep.
I totally after shooting and training with him, I see that. And then we started talking about, I told him if he's on there, like he needs to make a video of it. He goes, I probably have 100,000 misses in training, right? There's guys that haven't shot 100,000 rounds. There are instructors that haven't shot 100,000 fucking rounds
Hmm.
that are trying to teach us stuff, and you haven't done the work, right? It's like, and we're putting all this information. It's like, yeah, it's good, but at some point, stop consuming information and go back and do the work yourself, right? Get to fucking training yourself and stop practicing what you teach. So I think it's part of it's inductive, but like accountability comes down to awareness. Because we
Yeah.
can say all day long, cops need to be accountable. In reality, they don't
But
Yeah.
here's something.
because
I agree.
because it's
Oh, go ahead.
working. No, because it's working up to this point, right?
Yeah.
Single
Accountability.
digit up to 13 digit hit percentage, no issue. All still cops.
Okay. Accountability. To me, accountability and awareness are tied together. If they don't have awareness, accountability will force them to have awareness. And that's why I think they're interrelated. It's not one before the other. It depends. If you're into it, I mean, if you like the shooting piece and you really you're it's fun for you, you'll naturally be accountable. There's a lot of folks out there that aren't. And the accountability is basically the enforcement mechanism to force awareness. Like if you don't know what you're doing, the accountability would be institutional, okay, as opposed to you doing it yourself. So I mean, being realistic about it, to me, that is. that is the vehicle. It's not one or the other. The institutional accountability will I think will foster your awareness because that's how you get to success. So I think that once you get them in that model, once they understand the standards, which I think are that's a big key is once you establish this, you don't get to do this, and you separate. Go, we're going to train a certain way in order to build speed and comfort at speed. But understand when we test that, you don't get to do certain things like shoot no shoots. You just don't get to do that. That's we will hold you accountable for that. And their awareness, they'll be very aware. And every one of us knows from when you first start shooting matches to or doing performance-based shooting to where we are now. I know when I leave a target, whether or not I saw like I saw the shot hole, I know exactly where that delta is. Or if I had if I clipped the edge of a no shoot or whatever, I know exactly where it is or hard cover. I know where it is and I'm already gone. I'm like, and then I'm calculating the points and I'm going, I got to go anyway in a millisecond. But that awareness comes over time with experience, and they can't just jump to awareness. But the accountability, institutional accountability, will force them to become much more aware in order to succeed. That's how I see it.
So Chris, you brought up a good thing. Like, hey, in training, you switch to major, like you switch to major scoring? And I know Mike, you've got a ton of thoughts on. Let's
Yep.
start with Chris. Like, how then can we change, or is it even worthwhile to change scoring conditions? Is it hit factor, but deltas and Mike zero the stage?
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to. It's not a solution to anything. And like one guy posted in here, we're nitpicking minor and major. No, it's I'm looking for a solution. And what's
Hmm.
a different way we can start training people? Because we've had great success, I think, with the most people. But I've had now a lot more experience going out to do classes for agencies where it's the whole group, and it's not people paying to go to a Mike class or a Mac class who are already very interested in this and have a desire to learn. I've had huge sections of class. The guys down in Laredo, everybody was on board. They wanted everything. And other places where guys are just, hey, let's just do the drills, let's get through here. I'm trying to find different ways to push people who don't have full on desire to just figure the shooting part out. Right? Good enough is,
Hmm.
as Mark says. So the minor major, like go to major and make a delta a mic, right? Like to get that in. But I think we're still struggling with getting people, like Mike, you said something about it, to shoot a fist size group at 10 yards,
Yeah.
right? Give
Yeah.
me 10 rounds at 10 yards, put them in the alpha for me. Like that is its own struggle to start with.
Hmm.
But I see benefits of getting into the deep end of the pool and watching those groups actually shrink. Getting people to run the trigger more aggressively, but actually hang on to the gun and see those groups shrink. So I think that's the hard part is everybody's trying to figure everything out when that exploration is the key. Like I just got to let you shoot. You got to shoot the gun more.
Hmm.
Like if your whole
Yeah.
wrist is moving, do you even notice it? But they usually don't. And it's like trying to coach people through those things is the challenge.
So I think, it's whether it's the scoring system, in my opinion, is not as important as the scorable zone.
Agreed.
Because if it's like, hey, we're going to shoot dot torture, right? You're going to shoot the last five strings of torture. I need it to look like your fucking bill drill. It never will because the perception of the scorable zone is that it's so hard and it's too risky to not get a hit in there or a line break because that's a failure. So I think if you change the scorable zone, you potentially could have the same effects where guys are pushing. Like one of the ones I like, you figure if you envision like a USPSA metric target, right? And I come off the head, outline the head, and I come off the head, and in the middle of the C zone, right through the perf, I come down to the bottom of the A zone and go across. And all of that is the same value. It's all five. So
Hmm.
Yeah. It's like
something
a
that
qual target.
I talk about
Yeah.
plenty in classes, right? Shooting CQB warm up. Hey, I want alphas and close Charlies. Now the scorable zone is the same. You can still push, right? But now if you were to go to like a time plus to be outside of that scorable zone, you may not be able to outrun it. You assign a
Hmm.
different value for
Yeah.
the left side of the center of the C perf, and then a delta would be Like I don't believe it should be zero. Because or it should be like, hey, that's a mic, because there's sometimes, from my experience, delta alpha alpha solves the problem.
Right.
It's I would joke all the time, right? Like I never shot anyone in the D zone that didn't know what was happening. So like off target misses have to be a thing, and that's where the guy, whoever said, yeah, it's nitpicking, 100% it's
Hmm.
nitpicking, because we're trying to figure out like what is, we're all trying to agree on like what could be the solution to guys are still pushing, we're still paying attention to hit factor, but like Eric Shaw put out, maybe we have the ability now to score time plus when we're testing, because the hit factor scoring, everyone understands higher hit factor is better, but like if you're in a middle hit factor stage, do you understand the value of 7/10 hit factor? Like how big of a gap that is
Hmm.
outside of a full point.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and a lot of guys, I think, in that are shooting USPS, the guys that get really good now, hey, you potentially are going to win your class. Now you potentially are going to win your division in a club match, and you're competitive at level twos and all that. At some point, you have to really dig into the scoring to learn how to play the game,
Yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
in the simplest explanation for guys that aren't going to go, full retard on the competitive side, is hit factor and application is energy transfer to the target.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
How much energy are you transferring to the target every single second, right? And
Yeah.
what that value represents is how you win fights,
Hmm.
in my opinion. And I know, Mike, we've had a
Yeah.
bunch of conversations about
Yeah.
this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
I just
what we do is scoring is effective energy transfer. That's all it is. So if people are wondering how it's hit factor is points per second or effective energy transfer per second, it's literally the same thing, which is why every really legit organization uses it.
But I think
yeah.
a lot of guys don't understand, like, oh, what was your hit factor on that one? Oh man, I was six
Yeah.
eight. What was yours? 7.2. You don't realize
That's
how
an
big
ass
that
whooping.
fucking gap
Yeah.
is. You just
That's an
got your
ass
ass
whooping.
whooped. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, um, so it's part of the game. And I think it's a huge benefit to training if guys want to start geeking out on that in matches, because now you start to understand positions, distance traveled, number of targets available, where that hit factor looks, and that dictates how the performance you're going to give, right? Am I, and I've heard it described plenty of ways. Am I pushing? Am I holding? You know, and am I going to shoot this at 80% of what I'm capable of because I've got a buffer, between, or you think you have a buffer between the next guy, or do I need to push because I need to catch up points, or you watch a guy go that you're kind of competing against in just a range competition, and you're like, yep, he made a mistake, so I need to push to try to now create more points, get more points back
Hmm. Yeah.
in terms of stage points, to lengthen that lead or catch up, and that's part of the game.
Hmm.
I think for me, in my experience, it's the biggest benefit has been guys seeing what out of control looks like. And I know I harp on this a lot, but
Hmm.
it's been proven time and time again. Seeing what out of control looks like in training and then recognizing it when they actually get in the shooting. And
Hmm.
then not slowing down, but like the one kid he told me, he's like, I just told myself aim fucker. And he's just started aiming. He's like aim fucker. And he grabbed a hold of his gun and put rounds on the bad guy to get him stopped. Like that method of pushing people, it's like the scoring's almost irrelevant. It's just something that helps everybody understand where they're at,
Hmm.
right? But the only one I have not a problem with, but it's hard for me to wrap my head around is misses off target. So now it's like it's complicating things with like, are we got to count rounds? Like,
Yeah.
how many rounds did he shoot? Okay, there's three misses on that piece of steel. That's down this. And does that translate into slow down? Well, I think with time, I think it does, right? You may have to have more patience. And I think it comes down to the words we use, right?
Yeah.
Like, be more patient. What does it look like when you hit that thing? When you know what a target like that looks like. What does it look like when you can hit it, and what are you doing when you do? And you just start to recognize you can accomplish that faster. I know Matt and I watched a video where basically it's an open target of a suspect over a victim with knives with an exposure of like 6 or 7 seconds, I think. Matt, I can't remember what we
Yeah,
timed it out at, but a
it was
lot.
yeah, it was like 5 or 6 for, and I believe he had a rifle,
Yeah,
5 or 6 for a rifle shot at 7 feet.
yeah.
And it was obvious when you watch it from the other body cam, you're watching that guy's like he is just fucking frozen, and
Overwhelmed.
he's overwhelmed. He's not believing what he's seeing, right? And it gave enough time to where I think, the suspect, the adversary, was able to, finish the victim, and then he, you know, did what he had to do. So you go back to that, it's like I think in a training piece, we all see it. Like you don't want the first time you have to, shoot an application that's the first time you've ever shot at that pace. So that's why
With
I
those
think the explore,
consequences. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. With high accountability.
yeah, and now it's a matter of can you create those situations where they're pushing, exploring to failure, coming back to the known point, exploring to failure and past failure, coming back to the known point. And how I see it is like you'll have like a stair step of performance. Like now I'm way
Hmm.
high, I come back to the known point where I know what I can do. And now
And
I
it's
go
even
back
Hmm.
to
easier. Yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah, to a building process.
each time you're slipping that scale. That's the whole concept behind speed being based on perception. How fast you go is based on what you perceive fast. And so the first time you do a bill drill in 2 seconds, you think it's really fast. Until you do a bill drill in 168, then 2 seconds seems slow. Like it's perspective based. So I think that getting people to understand that as well, pushing them at a pace that they're uncomfortable, and we've all talked about this countless times, pushing them at a pace they're uncomfortable, it pushes the whole scale upward. Everything. What used to seem fast isn't fast anymore. And so now we're always trying to catch up with events. And so I think that part is still critical important. The whole reason I brought this up is that the whole topic is that is the misuse to me, back to the beginning of all this, the misuse of hit factor and USPSA methodologies for law enforcement training. Hit factor's fine, but the idea that like I'll just shoot really fast and I can get a no shoot, that to me was the big thing. Like you're taking two things, performance shooting and hit factor scoring, which are great, and then you're also bringing the game part into it. Now, I still believe that it's good to shoot USPSA. I think
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's great for people, but that's my whole point is having a little bit more accountability on the LE side because you're conditioning people when they shoot a no shoot and you go, yeah, but you had a good hit factor. You're telling them it's okay to do that as long as you get a good hit factor. And I don't believe that's right.
No.
Yeah.
It's our system in LE, and I know I'm retired now, but it's our system to make use of what fits us. Like, and we tell guys
Sure.
that, like, you can go, and Matt and I, you and I talked about it. You can go to a match and say, I will have no penalties whatsoever in this match. Like, that's the only goal you have. I'm going to shoot this match clean, no penalties, no mics, no nothing, and see if you can accomplish that before you worry about anything else. But it's up to you to use that as the training tool for you. But
Yeah.
if you want to play the game, you're just learning to play a different sport.
Mhm.
I think using club matches as training tools is invaluable. I saw I shot a match when I was teaching in California at Route 66, I think it was, and there was an open shooter there, like an A or M class, and he was very good. And he's got like a guy with him who's filming, and he's collecting all this data, and but he's running stages, right? And he's not making anything up. So he's using the match. He's like, he's building up to nationals,
Yep.
and what he said, he's like, I need to know if I can put up times, and then I'm going to take the information I have back to my training sessions and get the hit. So there would be, you know, an array of like 3 or 4 steel poppers on a stage, and he's an open shooter. He's athletic, he's fast as fuck. He's like bop 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 bop, and he goes to the steel and he's just like bop 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 bop, and maybe one falls, right? But when he got back from that, he would immediately go and the guy would write notes. What happened? This was the time. He goes, nope, I didn't see it. I'm dragging over, or I don't know what I saw there. And he was actually using a match to feed it back into his
Mm.
training thing, where his training regime, where he was not at all concerned about his outcome or placing in the match.
Yeah, that's an
Which,
awesome dude. That dude's dedicated right there. That's legit
Yeah,
training.
yeah,
yeah,
and I thought it was like, you know, like for me, when I initially started in USPSA, like I didn't have time to fuck up club matches. Like I was going to test everything I was doing to training, and I had an expectation like, oh, I want to win the division. I want to see finish as high overall, and then kind of set the goals like, yeah, I want to win, the high overall shooting production. But there was never that always like kind of, I think, slowed me down in terms of development because then I would go to a level two match and the first time I shot Area 6, I was like good in production division as unclassified and I was fifth or sixth place and then I'd go to another one, I would start psyching myself out because I never took the opportunity to like go fail at club matches. But also it was a time thing. Like I couldn't shoot four matches a month or like what you can do in Arizona where you could shoot four matches a fucking week. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I just didn't have time with family or whatever. So I saw that years later as a negative, like in terms of growth and development, like I was not using matches the way I should have been. I also wasn't shooting enough majors the same way now. Like you get hit up like, oh, you got to shoot more major matches. Like, dude, I'm on the road 300 fucking days a year. Like, I
yeah.
get it. Yeah, I agree. I want to shoot more, but I don't have, I'm not taking money from companies or doing any of that shit that facilitates me sitting at home fucking off. Like, it's just a fucking, I run out of days every month, and that's a complete fucking excuse, right? And it's something, you've got to overcome as a shooter. Like you have to figure out how to fit the time in to
Yeah.
go do that and then actually commit the time to it, because I do believe still that like shooting matches and developing is going to be pivotal and instrumental for me developing one as a shooter and two as an instructor.
Yeah.
So I got a
Yeah.
monkey wrench for you guys or a question. So you guys know I'm trying to get that match put together, that championship. Um,
Mhm.
that sounds like it's very possible we're going to do it. And one of my ideas was that we would have at least 5 stages where no shoots were stage DQs. And that so and I had some good arguments from other guys who are putting regional matches on, the guys from Utah and the guys down in San Diego or LA, Eric over in Tennessee. And some of the fear is, well, if you do stuff like that, you're kind of taken away from it's not going to be as inviting, right? And I still think it is though. Like it's hey, we're putting on I want to put on a match like that where a no shoot is a stage DQ, not a match
Mhm.
DQ. You're not fired,
Yeah.
you're not a bad person, but it's like, hey man, for that one you pushed it a little too hard. Like we're having the law enforcement handgun championship. Like it is USPSA rules ish based, but we can do our own
Well,
rules. Is that too extreme for something like that?
not at all. Not at all.
To me,
You
it's
can't.
not.
No.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, I just think it's that sounds like a crutch because they just don't want to be held accountable to that because they're worried that they're gonna hit a no shoot. Hey man, it's there's nothing. The only thing that bothers me more than hitting a no shoot is a mic off target because then I didn't see anything. I pulled the trigger, I had no idea where it was going. At least I can blame it on marksmanship with that. But it's like the idea that you carry a gun for a living in a sworn capacity and you're worried about no shoots, turning people away. I think that's silly. I think it's good for the profession because you're like, hey, we shoot that same sport, but we make it harder because we are more accountable. I think it's actually a good thing for law enforcement. I think it reflects well on law enforcement to do
I
that.
think I know
I
it. I
don't think.
know it's got resistance because I think it does take away from a bit of the game. I think
Yeah,
it takes away from the game we're used to playing when we're playing the sport. But it's saying, hey, just for this match specific, these are. That's kind of where I
mhm,
want to go
Yeah,
with the rules.
yeah,
I don't think
You
it
can't
takes
win.
away. it doesn't take away from the game, because it would be like part of a stage brief,
Mm.
right? Where they do dumb shit in stages all the time. Like, hey, your first three shots have to be, or your first three targets have to be strong hand only, and your last
Yeah.
three have to be weak hand. Well, why? There's nothing forcing me into it. Well,
Hmm.
because it's a game, and those are the conditions for this stage. So then you could have on this stage, right? Hey, we've got a 32 round stage. We got 16 targets, and there's nine partials out there. If you hit a no shoot, you zero the stage. Those are the scoring conditions for this stage,
Yeah.
right? Then you could have another stage like, hey, um, it's, alphas and charlies, deltas are that, like, this is accuracy and it's still speed, but if you throw a delta and you don't recognize it and make it up, right, you zero the stage. And then you push all the targets outside of 15 yards,
Yeah, and there's going to be
right?
Virginia count stuff too, where it's already
Yeah.
if you throw a mic, it's a mic. I mean, you can only get this
Yeah.
many rounds.
Yep.
And that's where I think it's not guys are like, oh well, it's you get less interest or whatever, then it's like you are the exact fucking person we're talking to
Yep.
with this because it's a game and now I'm just manipulating the rules of the game,
The,
right? And it happens everywhere. Have you seen, you know, guys that are watching NFL, have you seen the fucked up kickoff shit happening this year?
yeah.
I don't watch the NFL. Sorry.
Dude, guys, I'm just like, what the fuck is happening? Like the kickers are whiffing fucking kicks, but they're purposely doing it because there's a rule change where now they have to do that,
Oh, really?
And it's like, does it take away from the game? Not at all, right? And in a match, in like a law enforcement only match, be like, these are the things we're testing,
I mean, if you think about a no
Um,
shoot, you get penalized for a no shoot no matter what. If you're just shooting regular
Yeah.
USPSA, you're just making the penalty greater because in the conduct of your duties, the penalty is greater. It's just reflecting the gravity of shooting the wrong person. I mean, I don't, to me, like Matt said, those guys are the exact people that we're talking to.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it's a penalty. You ain't winning the match. Like if you hit one, you're not going to win the match if you get a stage
no,
DQ.
I think if it was, if you put it in the right amount in terms of like competitive equity, and it would
Mhm.
be like whatever the law enforcement guys that are setting the matchup for deem is like, this is what we want to do, then it's good, right? I don't think it'll detract away from anyone. I also don't think when you change conditions like that, the guys that are in danger of winning that match on the
Yeah.
LE side will perform
Yeah.
to
Yeah, they
meet
will.
the expectation of the rule set,
Yep.
right? The guys that are in no danger of winning that match are the ones that are going to bitch and moan about it.
Yeah. The guys that are good will actually welcome it because it gives them a relative advantage. Like I know how to shoot and I can ratchet it back just a little bit and make sure that I'm perfectly safe around those and still do well.
Yeah, most of the guys are going to stay at full speed. Like those dudes are going to be Morgan and Eric. Those guys are still going to be at full speed and just not do
Mhm.
it. They just won't take that chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you won't even, yeah, the full speed for them is like, okay, so I took another 2/10 or 3/10
Yeah.
for confirmation,
Yeah.
right? Which it would be like, yeah, that's what now you're shooting pure reactive shooting, right? It's not the predictive reactive blend like it's all competitive stuff. Now you're actually getting tested, but it goes back to like, Morgan and Eric, they can stand and drop alphas on demand, you know,
At
at
whatever
two
speed.
five, like they
Yeah.
know, yeah, whatever speed, because they know what they have to do to make that happen. I think it's a good idea. Is that match you're talking about, is it like the other Ellie Hanga match that was open to everyone, but it was predominantly Ellie, or is this closed only Ellie?
I I don't know how I think it's going to be open, but its primary focus is going to be LE. Like the one they do in Utah still has, I'd say they got 300 and something shooters up there or more, but they had about 80 or so that were, civilian competitors, sponsors, people like that having a good time shooting it too. But the LE guys are in their own specific division
Yeah.
because the purpose is to get a LE champion.
Sorry. I also meant to add to that Adrian
Oh, of
and game.
course. Yeah. Adrian, you're in no danger of winning.
Um, yeah, I think it's, you know, this will be the pickle talking about like how do you how do you artificially introduce, the idea of accountability and training, what makes the most sense. I think that's something that I know I'm always trying to in classes try to use like the predictive progression and then bring them back to reactive progression, which happens very fast, and then take what they've learned from the predictive and reactive and apply it, across more complex exercises, right? And always trying to, for me, I'm always trying to figure out how to do those progressions more effectively. But I still believe it's like predictive progression is a volume exercise.
Mhm.
Like guys have to get to a certain number of rounds before they're actually tying cause and effect together, right? And always tell them, yep, you're going to see it first. And when you see the mistake, now, did you feel it? Do you know the cue? Right. And it's giving them the right cues at the right yard lines, while they go through it. And I, as you guys know from teaching, right, in my opinion, like that's the art of instruction.
Yeah.
Like, can you get a guy to do it? You see three different shooters all making the same mistake, all relatively the same skill level, but they all can't get the same cue.
No, there's no way. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you got to coach them differently too.
Mhm.
Yeah. Cool, man. Mike, you're not coughing now. You need to get
Yeah,
Vetty.
one way.
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what stops coughs?
What?
Bourbon.
There you go. I got a bunch of it downstairs. That's for sure.
Make
Okay,
yourself a
shit.
hot toddy or something.
Put me to
I think
sleep.
it was an awesome talk though. Like it's
Yeah.
again, it's trying to find a solution, just bringing it up. Like,
Hmm.
are we aware of what we're teaching people and how we're using it? And
Yeah.
is the way we're using it detrimental? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But at least we got to be aware of it. Like, hey,
Yeah. There's
I
always a
absolutely,
pitfall, and anything that's useful, there's always an inverse to it. And so, what we're talking about with the performance-based stuff and hit factor scoring and all that is extremely beneficial and extremely useful. It's just what we're talking about is tweaking it. How do we make it a little bit more accountable? How are we conditioning you or patterning your behavior so that, and I don't like to say go slower, but what you said, Chris, be more patient in your shot. You're going to take the shot. Just be a little more patient because it has been trained into you, the accountability. I have to make this shot. I have to assume a little bit more risk by being a little bit more patient, but I have to make the shot. And I think that's the part that we're kind of trying to figure out the best path to get to.
yeah.
yeah. And
I
it
don't,
doesn't mean take more time either. It ain't going to get any better once the damn gun's aimed. Move the trigger.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
yeah.
as good as it gets. Once you see the sights, it's as good as it gets.
An application, yeah, you can never slow down. You just need to see it faster.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't think there is any negative, for anyone like listening, don't misconstrue this. Like,
No,
I don't think there's any negative in fucking competitive shooting and training for competitive shooting. I think it comes down to the individual discipline, right? The personal responsibility to understand what you're doing when,
Hmm.
right? And I'm playing a game here. I am also playing a game in application in a gunfight, but it's a different game,
Game. Yep.
right? And the stakes are higher. So no, man. And I think it's something that it keeps developing, over and over. You keep refining it, and I think if we have this same talk next year, we'll have better solutions, and it might be a little different environment, or maybe it'll be fucking worse. Who knows?
yeah. I know the results we've had over the past 5 years. The guys who are training and are taking it more seriously, who have then become or been involved in a shooting, have done better. So
Yeah,
the
Yep.
100%.
results are there. They do better. But the same training's been provided to everybody. So it does end up being on the individual because we've had people with zero hit factors still win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, man, we're right at an hour, dude. As always, I appreciate you guys. I think it was long overdue for Redneck Live.
Hell yeah.
Guys are complaining this one did get spicy, but I think this was a good topic. Mike, get some chicken soup,
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I'm
rest up,
dragging.
break that fever, dude. Chris, thank you so much for coming on. You guys appreciate it, man. I'll post it up, leave it up there, let it marinate for a little. Guys want to listen to it.